agency as the socio-culturally mediated capacity to act, and Matthias and Stern define this as the feeling of empowerment that comes from being able to take actions in the world whose effects relate to the player's intention. In games, when we subvert this expectation, it allows us to influence a player's understanding and perception of the world that we've placed them in. This can be used to create a sense of ludonarrative harmony, where the game mechanics and narrative work as one. My practice as a game developer has been focused on exploring how this can be used to share lived experiences through games. For submission, I emphasized how limited character control in tandem with audiovisual stimulus could better share this. Some important context for this project is that in 2020, I had intended to start at Magi, but instead I actually spent the year undergoing cancer treatment. This required a full commitment to getting better, following the advice of my doctors and submitting to the process. It felt like I'd lost some control over my life. So when I did get better, and I started my major project, I decided it would be cathartic to put these feelings into a game. This led to submission, a game in which you periodically switch from moments of frantic movement to stay afloat, to slow methodical movement, and moments of deliberate stillness. This give and take of agency is something that many game designers intuitively build into their work. One of the most interesting examples of this, I think, is in Before Your Eyes, which uses eye tracking for the game input. In this game, you're a disembodied soul on the way to the afterlife, reliving your memories in your last moments. With your blinks, an action we perform without thought thousands of times a day, you can skip minutes or even years instead of being able to live in that moment one last time. Bella Messick, one of the developers, has explained that in this case, the fail state is the blink. Another example of the mechanics working in harmony with the intended narrative is in That Dragon Cancer, in which the player is attempting to soothe a crying child and none of the choices provide a lasting result. This emulates the real-life situation that the developers experienced one night in the ICU with their own son. I want to be very clear when I say that submission has no fail state. One of the main design considerations was that I would only include things that I had experienced. What I did ensure was present was a sense of urgency, anxiety, and uncertainness. Through a careful blend of game mechanics and assets, I attempted to share a part of myself. With submission, there are moments of what Scully Blaker would define as types of stasis and stillness. Key examples of stasis are within the dropper section, where the player is held in place, forcing them to consider their position. There are also cutscenes where the room is gradually coming into more focus, and the imagery is intended to evoke the feeling of getting better. The moments of stillness are in sections like the hallways, in which movement causes the screen to blur slightly. This is intended to mirror the nausea that is a common side effect of chemotherapy. The sound and visual design were also incredibly important to get right, and where possible, I used found objects such as a recording of my own heart during an echocardiogram. This was added into sections where I wanted to increase tension, such as in the initial platforming section. So you might be asking yourself, how does this apply to me? And that depends on the kind of media that you want to create. Do you want your players to deeply connect with the experience, and are you interested in the way that the interactive form can be used to share experiences? Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is deliver moments of stillness to our players. Let them be fully immersed in the experience and hope that it meant something to them.